Welcome to Deep Dive Dialogues, the podcast where robots explore human ideas. Brought to you by Psych At Work magazine, where we take curiosity and turn it into something worth sharing. Let's plug in, power up, and get started.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be exploring Practice Made Perfect.
Okay.
It's a guide for psychologists who are looking to maybe start their own solo practice.
Right.
You might be seriously considering this yourself, or maybe you're just curious about, the business side of therapy.
Yeah, the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're basically aiming to give you the essence of this book without you having to, read all 300 pages or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly fascinating.
Okay, good.
It's broken down into 8 parts.
Mm-hmm.
Very cleverly, I thought.
Okay.
Each tackling a different piece of the puzzle.
So part 1 is called Getting Started the Smart Way.
Right.
Now, I think a lot of us, even if we're not therapists, have this image of starting a business and immediately needing a fancy office and a receptionist.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards, right. But this book kind of takes a different approach.
Absolutely. It emphasizes the lean startup approach,
Okay.
which you might have heard of from the tech world. Essentially, it's about starting small motors, testing your ideas, and adapting based on what you learn.
So dipping your toes in the water before, jumping in head first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so for a therapist, what would that actually look like?
Well, instead of renting a big office space right away,
Right.
the book suggests maybe starting with a co-working space
Okay.
or even offering telehealth sessions from home.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's about minimizing those initial costs and being really strategic with your resources.
That makes a lot of sense. And I imagine it also helps you figure out what your clients actually want and need, which then you can inform how you grow your practice.
Precisely. And the book also stresses the importance of having a crystal clear vision for your practice.
Okay.
And it's not just about, being a therapist.
Right.
It's about figuring out what makes you unique, what your specific niche is.
Oh, so give me an example.
Okay.
What could a strong vision for a therapy practice look like?
Let's say you're a therapist who's really passionate about helping young adults navigate the transition to college. That could be your niche.
Okay.
You can focus your marketing efforts on reaching that specific demographic, develop workshops tailored to their needs, even partner with local high schools or colleges.
Wow.
That kind of clear focus can really help you stand out in a crowded market.
Yeah, that's a great example. And it shows how this vision goes beyond just the logistics of setting up shop.
Right.
It's really about understanding your purpose and who you want to serve.
Exactly. Once you have that strong vision, the book argues everything else starts to fall into place.
Oh, wow.
It guides your marketing, your branding, even your choice of office space.
Okay, so speaking of marketing, let's move on to part 2, marketing on a shoestring.
Okay.
I think a lot of therapists might feel intimidated by the idea of having to market themselves,
Right.
especially if they're not coming from a business background.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of approach does the book take?
It focuses on storytelling. And it's not just about listing your qualifications or, therapeutic approaches.
Right.
It's about connecting with potential clients on an emotional level, sharing your why. What makes you passionate about this work?
So it's more about authenticity and building trust than just trying to sell your services.
Exactly. The book encourages therapists to think about their own journeys, the challenges they've overcome,
Oh, wow.
the experiences that have shaped their approach to therapy,
Interesting.
and then weave those elements into their website, copy their social media posts, even their initial consultations with clients.
So you're kind of inviting potential clients into your world a little bit,
Precisely.
sharing a bit of your story so they can see if it resonates with them.
Exactly. And the book provides really practical guidance on how to do that effectively, even if you're not a natural storyteller.
Right.
It talks about identifying key themes in your work, using anecdotes to illustrate your points, even incorporating client testimonials with their permission, of course.
Right, of course. Yeah. I bet it also talks about online tools like websites, social media, all that good stuff.
You got a website, social media, the whole shebang.
Okay.
And it makes it clear that even someone who's not tech savvy can build a decent website and leverage social media for marketing.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's not about being a coding whiz or spending a fortune on fancy software. It's about using the tools that are available to you in a way that feels authentic and aligns with your brand.
So for example, what's one simple tip the book gives for using social media effectively?
One thing that stood out to me was the advice to focus on providing value to your audience.
Okay.
So instead of just posting promotional content about your services, share insightful articles related to your niche,
Oh, okay.
offer tips for managing stress or improving mental health,
Right.
or even just, post inspiring quotes that resonate with you.
Okay.
So it's about positioning yourself as a resource and building a community around your practice.
Right. So ultimately, you're building trust and demonstrating your expertise, which can lead to those clients eventually reaching out to you for support.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that this approach is much more sustainable and effective in the long run than just, blasting out ads or trying to be everywhere all at once.
Right. It's about quality over quantity in a way.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of building relationships, the book also talks about networking, right? Which I think can feel daunting for some people, especially introverts.
Absolutely. But the book reframes networking in a way that feels less about schmoozing and more about building genuine connections.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of finding the right opportunities for collaboration.
Right. Not just like showing up at every event and handing out business cards.
Exactly.
So how do you find those right opportunities?
The book suggests thinking about your ideal client again.
Okay.
Where do they hang out? What organizations do they support? What events do they attend?
Right.
And then look for ways to get involved in those spaces. It could be volunteering for a related cause, joining a professional organization, or even just attending workshops or conferences where your target audience is present.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about being strategic with your time and energy and focusing on building relationships that are mutually beneficial.
Exactly. And the book even suggests reaching out to other therapists in your area.
Okay.
Not as competitors, but as potential collaborators.
Oh, interesting.
You might be surprised how open people are to sharing resources, referring clients, or even co-hosting workshops.
So shifting the mindset from competition to collaboration.
Exactly.
Which can ultimately benefit everyone involved.
And it creates a sense of community, which can be especially important for solo practitioners who might otherwise feel isolated.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so we've talked about getting started, finding your niche, marketing your practice. But there's another piece of the puzzle that can feel a little intimidating, especially for those of us who aren't lawyers, the legal stuff.
Yeah.
So let's dive into Part 3, Legal and Compliance, Simplified. This is where the book, I think, does a fantastic job of demystifying the legal aspects of starting a practice. It reassures the reader that navigating these legalities doesn't have to be a nightmare.
Right.
Which is a relief to hear.
Yes.
So what are some of the key legal considerations the book covers?
Well, it starts with the basics, like licensing requirements for therapists in your state.
Okay.
And then it dives into choosing the right business structure, like whether to be a sole proprietor or form an LLC.
Okay.
It walks you through the pros and cons of each option.
So even though the book simplifies things, it doesn't shy away from these important details.
Not at all. It provides really clear explanations and even some real-world examples to help you understand the implications of each choice.
That's good.
Yeah.
And of course, it covers things like insurance and HIPAA compliance, right?
Absolutely, especially with the rise of telehealth. It's more important than ever for therapists to be aware of the legal and ethical considerations around client data protection.
So can you give me like a quick explain it like I'm 5 on HIPAA compliance?
Okay.
Like, what does it actually mean for a therapist in their day-to-day practice?
Imagine you're sending an email to a client containing sensitive information about their treatment.
Right.
HIPAA compliance means you need to make sure that email is encrypted and sent through a secure platform rather than just your regular email account.
Oh, okay.
So it's about protecting your client's privacy and confidentiality at every touch point.
So it's not just about paperwork. It's about making sure your entire practice, from your physical space to your digital communications,
Exactly.
is set up to protect client information.
Exactly. And the book provides checklists and resources to help you make sure you're meeting all the necessary requirements.
Okay, so we've tackled the legal stuff now. Let's talk about another aspect of starting a practice that can feel a little daunting, the financial side.
Yeah.
Part 4 is titled Financial Wisdom for the Busy Psychologist. Sounds like it covers a lot of ground.
It does. It does.
What are some of the key takeaways here? Well, first of all, the book acknowledges that many therapists aren't trained to be business whizzes.
Right.
They're trained to help people, not necessarily to manage finances.
So true.
Yeah?
And I imagine that can create a lot of anxiety for therapists who are considering going solo.
Absolutely. But this section really demystifies the financial aspects of running a practice.
Okay.
It starts with the basics, like setting competitive fees and understanding insurance billing and reimbursements.
Okay. Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Sure.
What are some of the key things a therapist needs to know about setting fees and dealing with insurance?
Well, the book encourages therapists to research the average fees for their services in their area,
Okay.
and it also emphasizes the importance of understanding different insurance plans and how they work, because that can impact how much you're reimbursed for each session.
That makes sense. And it also talks about like managing finances efficiently, right?
Yes, it covers practical things like choosing the right billing system, optimizing your tax strategy, and even creating a financial forecast for your practice.
A financial forecast. That sounds intense.
It might sound complicated, but the book breaks it down into manageable steps.
Okay.
It's basically about projecting your income and expenses over a certain period of time,
Okay.
which can help you make informed decisions about your business.
So it's about being proactive rather than just reacting to whatever comes up financially.
Exactly, and it can help you identify potential challenges early on so you can adjust your strategy accordingly.
Now, here's a part I found really interesting and maybe a little surprising. The book talks about the importance of having an emergency fund, even for therapists. Now, we all know it's a good idea in general.
Right.
But why is it especially important in this field?
Well, therapists are human too, right?
Yeah.
Life happens. You might have unexpected medical expenses, car repairs, family emergencies,
Right.
or even a period of time where you have fewer clients than usual.
Okay.
Having that financial cushion can make all the difference in those situations.
So it's about peace of mind.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can weather those storms without it impacting your ability to provide quality care to your clients.
Exactly. And it allows you to focus on your work and your clients' well-being without constantly worrying about money.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've covered getting started marketing the legal stuff and finances. Now, let's move on to part 5, which is all about the nitty-gritty of running a practice day-to-day, smooth operations with less effort.
Okay.
What are some of the key insights here?
This section is packed with practical tips for creating an efficient workspace, streamlining the client experience, and just generally making things run smoothly.
Okay.
It covers everything from scheduling appointments and managing paperwork to setting up your physical space in a way that's both functional and welcoming.
I imagine technology plays a big role in this.
Absolutely. The book guides readers through choosing user-friendly electronic health record systems,
Okay.
EHR systems, and telehealth platforms, and it even offers advice on preparing for potential tech hiccups.
Because, let's be honest, technology can be amazing, but it can also be frustrating when things go wrong.
It definitely can.
So it's all about finding the right tools that work for you in your practice and then having a plan in place for when things inevitably go awry.
Exactly. And the book doesn't just tell you what to do, it explains why these things are important.
Oh, okay.
For example, it talks about how a streamlined client intake process can actually reduce anxiety for new clients because it makes everything feel more organized and efficient.
That's a good point. It's not just about making things easier for the therapist.
Right.
It's about creating a positive experience for the client from the very beginning.
And that can go a long way in building trust and rapport.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but there's one more crucial aspect of starting a solo practice that we need to discuss, taking care of yourself. Part 6 is titled Taking Care of You,
Right.
which I think is so important, especially in a field as demanding as therapy.
Absolutely.
What does the book have to say about this?
It really emphasizes the importance of work-life balance and burnout prevention.
Okay.
It reminds therapists that they can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
If they're not taking care of themselves, they won't be able to provide the best possible care to their clients.
That's so true. So what are some of the practical tips the book offers for avoiding burnout?
It encourages therapists to set clear boundaries between work and personal life, establish regular self-care routines, and even schedule time for activities they enjoy outside of work.
So it's about prioritizing your own well-being, even when you have a demanding schedule and a lot of clients relying on you.
Exactly. And the book provides really concrete examples of self-care practices.
Oh, like what?
From simple things like taking a few minutes each day to meditate or go for a walk, to more involved practices like scheduling regular massages or even therapy sessions for yourself.
I love that it's a reminder that self-care isn't selfish.
Right.
It's essential for doing your best work and showing up fully for your clients.
And it's about recognizing the early signs of burnout, like feeling emotionally drained, having trouble sleeping, losing interest in activities you used to enjoy.
Because if you can catch those signs early on, you can make adjustments before things get too overwhelming.
Precisely. And the book emphasizes that it's okay to ask for help,
Right.
whether it's from a therapist, a supervisor, or even just a trusted friend or colleague.
It's about recognizing that you're not alone in this journey. that there are people who can support you along the way.
Exactly.
The book also talks about building a support network, right?
It does. It encourages therapists to connect with peer support groups, attend workshops for professional development, and even just, prioritize social activities that bring them joy.
That makes a lot of sense. You need that community,
Yeah.
that sounding board, especially when you're working independently.
It's about combating isolation and fostering a sense of belonging, which can be incredibly valuable for solo practitioners.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground from getting started and marketing your practice to managing finances and taking care of yourself. But there are still 2 more parts of the book to discuss,
Right.
which focus on being prepared for the unexpected and continuing to learn and grow throughout your career. We'll dive into those in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We're going to be looking into the last couple parts of the book, starting with part 7, Ready for Anything? Crisis 101.
Okay.
It sounds very dramatic, but, it's all about being prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah, for sure.
Something we can all relate to.
Whoa, absolutely. Life throws curveballs. And that's true whether you're running a business or just navigating everyday life.
Yeah.
But I think for therapists who are, often working independently and dealing with, sensitive client information, being prepared for those what-if moments feels extra crucial.
Right, and what's interesting is the book doesn't just focus on big dramatic crises like natural disasters or anything, although it does cover those too. It also talks about more everyday disruptions that could impact a therapist's practice.
Like what?
Things like technology failures, personal emergencies,
Okay.
even legal challenges.
So give me an example. What kind of contingency plan could a therapist put in place for, say, a sudden power outage?
That's a great question. The book actually provides a sample plan for just that scenario.
Oh, wow.
It suggests having a backup system for storing client data, making sure your phone is fully charged so you can still communicate with clients.
Right.
Even having a printed list of emergency contacts in case you can't access them digitally.
Those are all such practical tips, and it makes you realize that being prepared isn't about being paranoid or anything. It's just about having systems in place to minimize stress and disruption for both yourself and your clients.
Exactly. And the book even encourages therapists to think about things like having a professional will in place.
Oh, wow.
Making sure their business insurance is up to date. It's about taking those proactive steps to protect yourself and your practice in case the unexpected happens.
I like that. Okay, so we talked about being prepared for crises.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to part 8.
Okay.
The final section of the book, which is titled Never Stop Learning.
Yes.
I love that.
I know, me too.
This feels like a message that resonates with both of us as, lifelong learners ourselves.
Absolutely.
So this is where the book emphasizes that starting a practice is just the beginning of the journey.
Right.
It's about seeing yourself as a lifelong learner, constantly seeking to expand your knowledge and your skills to provide the best possible care for your clients. So what are some of the ways the book suggests therapists kind of go about that ongoing learning?
Well, it covers a range of options,
Okay.
from attending conferences and workshops to joining professional organizations, even just carving out time for independent reading and research.
Okay.
And it encourages therapists to be really intentional about their professional development, like identifying their specific learning goals and then seeking out resources that align with those goals.
So, for example, let's say a therapist specializes in working with children with anxiety.
Okay.
What are some ways they could stay up to date on the latest research and best practices in that area?
So many options. They could join the Anxiety and Depression Association of America.
Okay.
They offer webinars and conferences specifically for mental health professionals.
That's great.
They could subscribe to journals like Child Psychiatry and Human Development to stay informed about the latest research findings.
Okay.
And they could even seek out continuing education courses on specific therapeutic approaches for childhood anxiety, like cognitive behavioral therapy or play therapy.
That's a great example. It shows how therapists can really tailor their learning to their specific interests and areas of expertise.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that this ongoing learning isn't just about acquiring new knowledge.
Okay.
It's also about refining your skills and developing your own unique approach to therapy.
It's about becoming the best possible version of yourself as a therapist.
I love that, yes.
And that kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier, about having a clear vision for your practice.
Right.
If you're constantly learning and growing, you can kind of evolve your practice over time to reflect, your deepening knowledge and expertise.
Precisely. And that can be incredibly rewarding, both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
It's about staying curious, staying engaged, and constantly striving to provide the best possible care to your clients.
So we've reached the end of our deep dive into Practice Made Perfect.
Wow.
We covered a lot of ground today, from the practicalities of setting up a practice to the importance of self-care and ongoing learning. What would you say are kind of the key takeaways from this book?
I think what makes it so valuable is its practicality and accessibility.
Okay.
It takes what can feel like a really daunting process and breaks it down into manageable steps, offering clear guidance and real-world examples that any aspiring therapist can relate to.
It definitely feels like it takes the mystery out of starting a solo practice.
Right.
And I love the emphasis on finding your niche, telling your story, building a practice that truly reflects your values and passions.
It reminds you that you don't have to have all the answers right away.
Right.
It's a journey, and there are resources and support available every step of the way.
And I think the book's focus on self-care and ongoing learning is so crucial.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, a successful practice is built on a foundation of personal well-being and professional growth.
Couldn't agree more.
So to wrap things up, let's leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
If you were to start a solo practice, what would be your unique niche or specialization?
Ooh.
What are you passionate about? What kind of clients do you want to serve? And what would make your practice stand out?
That's a good question.
It's something to ponder, isn't it?
It is. It really gets to the heart of why someone would choose this path in the first place.
And for anyone listening who wants to dive deeper into any of the topics we've covered today, we highly recommend checking out Practice Made Perfect.
Absolutely.
It's a valuable resource, whether you're just starting to explore the idea of private practice or you're ready to take the leap.
It's a great guide to have on your shelf as you embark on this exciting journey.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Okay.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights from our conversation.
I hope so.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to think about, isn't it? Like, we've been given this roadmap to creating a fulfilling career path.
Right.
And now it's up to each of us to decide where we want to go with it.
Exactly. And I think that's what I love about this book.
Yeah.
It doesn't just give you the technical know-how you know.
Right.
It also encourages you to do some soul searching. Figure out what truly aligns with your values and passions.
It's like it's giving you permission to dream big.
Yeah.
Create a practice that's uniquely yours.
And that can be really empowering, especially for therapists who might be feeling burnt out or disillusioned with the traditional models of practice.
Yeah, I think a lot of therapists enter this field because they have this deep desire to help people.
Right.
But somewhere along the way, they can get bogged down in the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Or the limitations of working within, a larger system.
Right.
This book reminds you that you have the power to create a practice that reflects your values, allows you to work in a way that feels authentic and fulfilling.
And it's not just about the therapist's fulfillment either, right?
Right.
It's also about creating a better experience for the clients.
Absolutely. When a therapist is passionate about their work and feels aligned with their practice, that energy translates into the therapy room.
Right.
Clients can sense that authenticity and passion.
Yeah.
And it can create a more trusting and productive therapeutic relationship.
I imagine it also allows therapists to be more creative and innovative in their approach.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not limited by the constraints of a traditional setting,
Right.
you can really think outside the box and find new ways to meet your clients' needs.
That's a great point. The book actually encourages therapists to think about their ideal client.
Yeah. Okay.
And then build their practice around that person's needs and challenges.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like working backwards, starting with the who,
Yeah.
and then figuring out the how.
And that how could involve all sorts of interesting things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's incorporating mindfulness practices into sessions, offering group therapy in a nature setting, or even integrating creative arts into the therapeutic process.
Yeah.
The possibilities are really endless.
They are, and that's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah.
There's always room for growth and innovation, and this book really captures that spirit.
It's a reminder that starting a solo practice isn't just about hanging up a shingle and waiting for clients to come knocking.
Right.
It's about creating something meaningful, something that reflects your unique gifts and passions, and ultimately something that makes a positive impact on the world.
Well said, and I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
It is so to all of our listeners out there who are dreaming of creating their own unique path in the world of therapy.
Okay.
We hope this deep dive into Practice Made Perfect has sparked some inspiration and giving you some food for thought.
Yeah.
Remember, it's all about taking that first step, even if it's just exploring the possibilities and allowing yourself to dream big.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
There are resources, communities, mentors out there who can support you every step of the way.
That's so true. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the conversation, and until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Thanks for listening to Deep Dive Dialogues. Explore more at Psych At Work magazine. Click the link in the description.